I come from a land down under known as tech.
If your jokes were funny, I would keep them in.
I mean, that's a funny joke.
Oh my God. I'm doing a podcast with this guy. All right. Tech. What do you got?
Are you familiar with the Folding at Home project?
No. Folding at home.
Yeah. Folding
Clothes?
or folding at home. No. Folding at Home is a distributed computing project whereby your device, computer, phone, PlayStation, Xbox, can take part in solving medically specific for folding at home medical equations. So the Folding at Home project uses standby vampire power, if you will,
right?
Pooling that power to do some math and solve these problems. It's working for the greater good. My thought is that so many people now have so many devices running at any given time.
Sitting around, unused.
Yeah. But how can we make this more accessible to the every person, right?
Like just sign on
to the
and
lay
just
person.
Make your devices.
And maybe it's something that like the device manufacturers just need to take advantage of in some way, Apple, or be part of this greater good where the devices are just not wasting all of their cycles.
Isn't that like what you get when you sign up for a service and the company asks if you would also then send your data, allow them to send your data in a similar way, just meaning that if you want to help them out, hey, do you want to also participate in this,
whatever it is,
to aid medical research versus going and making phone calls for donations.
Right.
This is one other way to
helps
help
cancer
out.
research.
Exactly right. Like I could totally see that. This totally reminds me of a thing back in the 90s, I think it was, where they were using, I think it's along the lines of how crypto works now, just
right. And that's what I was going to say.
Latent computer power used, and back then it was used for star search, not looking for the next dead star.
Yeah.
No, it was a SETI project, I think, but it was basically using the downtime on your computer to help them compute mathematical.
Cool. I mean,
problems.
There's so much compute power out there now, just in everybody's household.
Yeah, sitting unused,
just idle.
This is by New Commission 128, a web app that lets you listen to music with friends, cue songs by pasting into YouTube links in chat. Oh, I guess like the YouTube chat engine that they've seen, where you have a live or a premiere going, and the little chat thing pops up and off you go. But I like the idea of speech bubbles along the side of the screen, for example, not just with music, but with anything. What if you were watching a Netflix show and you wanted to have a chat with your friends? Or maybe you're a book group and you're finally all watching the actual
watching a
movie
football
of the
game
book or a football game, and you want to have
there was, and I don't know, and maybe it still exists. I remember seeing this because I had looked into this before, because I've always liked the idea. I like the idea of especially live events.
Yeah.
Chatting back and forth. Maybe it's a TV show, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There was a service that did this or tried to do this. I don't know if it still exists, where you could go online and just chat. Now, you could, of course, use any existing chat system to do this now, whether it's Discord or Slack or
exactly right.
Google Chat or whatever. But it's more about the community building, right?
It's more about the community building, a place to go, a place to share, a bit like Twitch, I guess. My friend, our friend Brad, who uses
Twitch to DJ.
and he does that. And you can do live chats on there as well. Bandcamp has done that as well for live premieres of albums that are about to drop. You'll have then, a bit like an AMA, you'll have the artist or the record label there as well, with fans exchanging what they think, also in line selling merch while the premiere is happening.
That's pretty good.
Football games, you might be selling, football merch there. I mean,
live music
tickets,
stuff,
whatever. Yeah, it could be any number of things. The other angle on this that I thought was super interesting is a family member of mine recently passed away, and we had a remote funeral service. And this is South Africa, miles and miles away, but it was organized there. Our family is spread out all over the world.
So you guys were like zoomed in type thing?
We were on, I think it was Zoom. It wasn't great. The quality wasn't great. It was kind of hard to follow.
The quality wasn't great because like they
I
just
don't
set
know
up a
probably
laptop
where they were
or
set up. Maybe it was like a laptop.
webcam, yeah.
But what occurred to me is that, it's so seldom that my family gets to sort of have a conversation, a
Globally,
chat together
yeah.
globally, right? There was no chat feature for this presentation. And it occurred to me, like, wouldn't it be great to have a way to make a donation to, maybe they post a charity
Sure.
that you could then donate to right there and then. You can do it after the fact, but it's kind of cool when you can all do it together. You can kind of like share the experience of doing that, maybe buying flowers, what have you, that kind of approach. Same thing with weddings, same thing with graduations. You can't make it.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Like we were saying, like sporting events, or what if I was traveling and my kid was in a school play?
Yeah.
And
which
I
must happen a lot. That's
right.
where,
and now my wife, of course, we could FaceTime or whatever. But
right. It seems to me that the chat thing that I've seen, I think, most successfully on YouTube, taking that idea, merging it with the idea that we see on like Bandcamp, which is a much smaller version of that, and what Reddit does with AMAs, is kind of interesting.
One thing, as we're doing more and more of these podcasts now and content, one of our goals is to obviously get as much content out there as possible. One of those types of pieces of content could be a newsletter, an email newsletter. I would love to have some newsletter generation done by AI, or maybe it's even a virtual assistant or something, but I think probably AI that just automatically takes in our video content from the podcast or audio and transcribes it and then summarizes it. I did stumble across one.
Yeah.
Probably need to try it, called podsqueeze.com.
Squeeze. All right.
Squeeze your pod.
Good name there. I like it.
How many podcasts do you want to listen to versus how many can you listen to?
How much time do you have? I think it really gets to the problem about there's so much content out there. There's so much content. No one has enough time to watch it all.
Right. And there are a couple things out there that I've stumbled across this week, actually, that do some summarizing of a podcast where AI consumes it and gives you the highlights. It basically gives you the Cliff's Notes, and then and it quotes them and timestamps into the pod. So if you wanted to go, if you kind of skim the Cliff's Notes and said, oh, they're talking about how to make a good hot dog there. I'm really interested in hot dogs. Yeah. Click that, and it takes you to 8 minutes and 32 seconds, and you get to hear that 2-minute bit, and then you can go back to your day.
Yeah, I think, in fact, there's a service called Otter, or is it Osprey or Ostrich? It's an O or something, but it's an add-on AI assistant for, I believe, Zoom or maybe any of the platforms that will then take the entire contents of the Zoom and create a transcription, transcribed, I believe, a summary, not a full transcription, which is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is from Daniel 271828. A suggestion for a phonetic-based spell check, especially useful with the rise of large language models. Now, the reason why a phonetic spell check, apparently, because I didn't know anything about this, is so important is because with everything that uses speech recognition right now, all these devices that we use, Alexa, everything, they have the probability of misunderstanding what you're going to say.
Yeah, happens to me daily.
And a paper that was written only 2 years ago, Amazon Science, they use some examples. One of the examples is Bluetooth sound system. Bluetooth sound system. But all of the words that I said are in fact words that exist. Necklace versus necklace. Skull candy versus skull candy.
What does necklace mean?
I don't know what necklace is, but people say it. Now, a phonetic spell check that takes into account maybe where someone's from. I don't know how that would work. Maybe what their native language is. Maybe there could be some library of languages where it understands what typically happens to whatever language that it's operating in. And using large language models would be a massive part of that.
Well, and I'm guessing that there's some level of that happening automatically in our phones when we use text to speech for, speech to text for texting, and et cetera. I mean, it's obviously figuring out words. There was a point a couple of years ago where I did notice a change in the way it was doing look ahead, and then the way it was taking grammatical,
like a contextual
contextual,
right.
Yeah, contextual spelling and word. like it would change the word because once it realized the context.
Right.
It goes back and it'll like update the word. And when I'm done and when you like deselect the microphone, it may rewrite a word because it now has the full context.
Well, the example I heard, for example, is if it's two audio engineers talking about sound, they're unlikely to be talking about sand.
Right.
And so it would correct for things like that. It would be context aware spell check, essentially. Yeah.
I have had this idea for a while. I watch a lot of live streaming content from creators. So whether that's a podcast like this or that's live, or a Twitch stream of somebody playing a game, or a YouTube stream of somebody playing a game. I watch a lot of gamers streaming stuff on YouTube. One of the things that I think could be improved upon is the interaction of the host and their guests, right? Their chat. And I think one of the ways that we could see that amped up would be to include some type of gaming and or competition type thing in the chat. And there's a couple different angles that I have for that. So one is just, simple little games, whether they're word games or just little mini games that you could run as a host to the channel. You could run with your chat to kind of get them competing against each other. And maybe it's to win prizes or, there's like credit systems built into streams with, Twitch, etc. So maybe it's stuff like that. And there are a couple things out there that do this, but I just think that it really could be amped up and cranked up and taken to the next level. There's also the feature of drops on, like in Twitch especially, where me as a game streamer hosting and showing the game that I'm playing, I can enable drops for that game, which means you as a viewer of my channel, if you have that game, you can link your Twitch account and your account for that game. And if you're watching my stream long enough, occasionally you get an in-game item, like maybe it's a piece of clothing for your character or a new gun or whatever it is for your character in the game. I'd love to also see where your chat can control and make some decisions for you in the game or vote towards them in the game that would actually affect what you see in your game. And I can think of, technically totally doable. Put an API in the middle of the game and the chat. And we're, kind of letting the chat drive and make decisions there. So I just think more interaction between the viewer and the content creator.
That goes back to the AMA again, because the fans love to have the interaction. They love to interact with the creators. It almost feels like when I see the AMA, like, why isn't there more of a dedicated platform to that? And maybe that's what you're talking about. But I wonder if there isn't. I mean, is there a dedicated platform to the AMA type format? That involves creators and their fan bases more directly?
I think there needs to probably be. I mean, because Reddit is actually obviously where AMA got its legs and comes from for the most part, but it's kind of a limiting platform for that type of content.
Chat-based,
and it's static, right? It's dynamic on the fly, but it's just text content that you're putting up there. It's not a live chat.
And they're pretty fun, even just with the text, but I kind of think, I imagine it would be much more amped up.
The good thing about an AMA in the Reddit format is it's somewhat timeless because you can go in, read the question, read the answer, and it feels like you at least have the full context, right?
Yes, exactly right. And I think people definitely appreciate when the responder takes the time to really read through each and respond to each question.
And when they don't, they get slayed.
Ooh, boy, tough crowd. VR visits with pets that have passed using 3D scans, for example, in Unreal Engine. And I saw on a Reddit thread that, in fact, someone had randomly taken a 3D scan of their family dog.
Okay.
And later, that dog had actually died, and he had found the scans, and he had posted on this post a little video of him walking in Unreal Engine on a beach, and there was the dog, I guess the way he had scanned it, laying down, like looking up at him as he walked around. And I mean, for some, that might be too uncanny valley. I don't know. I thought it was kind of fascinating, and it was a little unsettling at first, but I could see that there would be a market for that, especially for people who have lost pets, loved ones. And And when I say loved ones, let me read this quote that I found, which really kind of hits home for me. This is from a mom who posted on the same thread. She wrote, "Where/how do I do this? My 19-year-old passed away and I want to see him. I have his Quest, which I'm assuming is his MetaQuest profile, game profile.
Mm-hmm.
Can someone help me figure it out? All I can find is articles about it, but nothing that tells me how to see my boy again. Please help."
So she's thinking she can see his avatar or something? Or
She obviously she thinks that because I think he must have scanned himself into the game and told her, so she knows this, and that he was using his scan of himself in his game. He passed away.
Yeah.
And she just wants to have one more opportunity to spend time with him. But I think that's actually, if one mom is saying that, I guarantee you there are more parents who would think that way. And people who have lost brothers and sisters and friends, pets, of course.
Yeah.
I know there was a Black Mirror episode that dealt specifically with this.
Right.
And I think, spoiler alert, I think there was, by the end of it, maybe we only learned by the end of it that it was all VR. And that all the time that she had spent with her spouse or girlfriend at the time had all been in a virtual context.
Kind of remember it, yeah.
But and that was obviously very advanced. That either she didn't know or we didn't know that it was all in fact artificial. But I can see a future where that is a thing, and that when you've lost someone, not to bring them back. No, but just to relive moments. The same reason we look at photo albums.
This comes down to, and now with AI, obviously we're taking this all to another level, but it gets you to this point of, right, it's the parameterization, right? Because really what is personality, right. What is being, what are all real? What is real? Yeah. It's like if you can get enough parameters, right, then you basically have the reality as far as close the perception thereof anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of recording enough parameters about that person so that that person can be recreated to some extent later.
I mean, there's a reason why people keep, loved ones' ashes in urns. There's a reason why people freeze dry their pets.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of fits into that. Now, is there the weird factor with the fact that you're interacting with them?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we already know that with large language models and with voice, voice sampling, that we're seeing more and more. I could see that them being extremely close.
Sure.
More and more as scanning gets better. Movies.
Now we're starting.
We've seen actors getting 3D scanned like super high definition.
Well, you can do things just with your iPhone. As far as scanning yourself in really well.
Well, I think that's a fascinating idea. I foresee that really finding legs in years to come. No question.